Folks, this isn't about hopium. This is about the data. And we've seen now with the New Hampshire primaries, we've seen with the Iowa primaries, and now we've seen with the South Carolina primary that Donald Trump keeps underperforming. And here's the devastating number for him. About 25% of all Republicans say they will not ever vote for Donald Trump. There's also the independent problem that Donald Trump has, where independents are utterly disgusted by him, and they're either voting for Nikki Haley or say they will vote for President Joe Biden. And over again, we see the so-called polls being wrong, and they are saying that Trump is going to win by far more than he actually does in these various primaries. I mean, look at South Carolina, for example, where Nikki Haley basically got 40% of the vote. Donald Trump got under 60% of the vote. You compare that to how President Biden performed in South Carolina. Trump, like Biden, are basically both incumbents in their own party for the primaries. President Biden got over 95% of the vote in South Carolina, and the media didn't report that as dominant or strong, yet they'll always report this in a way that's favorable to Trump. That just isn't reflective of the data. Look, folks, people are watching what Donald Trump is saying. For example, just take a look at what he said over the past 24 to 48 hours. Here, Donald Trump talks about how he's the greatest rambler that there is. Play this clip.
They'll say, "You rambled." Nobody can ramble like this. Nobody. If they did, they wouldn't even try. You know what? They go step by step, and they would never get off that sucker. They go step by step.
I mean, could you imagine if President Biden ever talked like that? And here again, from the past 24, 48 hours, here's Donald Trump saying the J6 hostages are being treated so unfairly. Here, play the clip.
The more the corrupt establishment tries to stop us, the more you know the day is near at hand when we will break free from their grip. We're going to break free very soon. We're going to break free from their grip very soon. You heard the J6 hostages, didn't you? You heard that. And I will tell you, there's never been in the history of our country a group of people treated the way they've been treated. There's never been anything like it. Carpenters, mechanics, lawyers, firemen, policemen, military people. They went to protest a rigged election, and they've been sentenced to years in prison.
Yeah, and so of course this is rubbing independent voters and a lot of mainstream Republican voters the wrong way when people just behave like that. As I say, it's not normal, it's dangerous, it's also really, really weird. And by the way, this is Fox right here giving you that data point as well about this 25% of registered Republicans will not vote Trump. Here, play this clip.
The real key here is this 59% of Haley voters who say that they would not vote for Donald Trump should he become the nominee. That tracks with about 24% of the Republican Party, which is right along the lines of what that New York Times Siena poll showed us a year ago, almost a year ago now, in terms of the makeup of the Republican Party, in which there was about 25% of Republicans who say that they are never Trumpers.
Here's a clip from Alyssa Farah saying that she's never seen something like this where lifelong Republicans are saying they won't vote for this guy. Play the clip.
Just really quickly, anecdotally, and I get this is anecdotal, I've never known so many lifelong Republicans worked in Republican politics that will not support Donald Trump this election. There is a tide shift that is unprecedented here, and there are homeless Republicans looking for somewhere to be.
And she worked for him. And here, by the way, this is Fox again. This is Trey Gowdy, former Republican member of Congress. And he's saying this party ain't unified at all. The Republicans aren't unified. It's probably more not unified than ever in history. Play this clip.
In terms of unity, though, Brett, I mean, has he looked at the House of Representatives lately? Has he looked at the GOP Senate? I don't see a unified party. I see a party where over half of her supporters right now would not vote for him.
And folks, we hear stories like this over and over again from you. As I've always said, While we get tens of thousands of stories from mainstream Republicans and independents here at the MeidasTouch Network explaining how they've voted Republican in the past but will never vote for Donald Trump and this MAGA mutation, I said, I understand that's anecdotal. That's not a scientific study. But, every time we see an election that actually takes place, whether it's a special election, whether it's a referendum on an issue like women's reproductive rights, or whether it's a primary, that is always confirmed in the data. And we hear stories like this. This is Joy Hunter, 64, of Somerville, declined to share how she had voted in the last election, though she said she had never voted Democrat, but ruled out supporting Trump this year, citing in part the Capitol riot. I know people say just ignore his character and instead focus on what he's done. But I don't know you can separate entirely a person's character from their policies, Ms. Hunter said. She added of Ms. Haley, I'm going to beg her not to drop out. And that's someone who's a Republican. By the way, Trump's policies were abhorrent, but there's a lot of propaganda out there trying to sell a bill of goods in the opposite way. But a lot of people, who are mainstream Republicans feel the way Joy does. Or how about this one right here? Miss Gramling made it clear that Donald Trump, who has driven many moderate and suburban voters out of the party over the last year, faces even graver challenge with those Americans now. Quote, everything about him bothers me. His arrogance, his lack of support for the military, said Miss Gramling, who is also a teacher. She supported Trump in 2016 before backing Biden in 2020 and would back a Democrat again over Trump. Quote, everything that he does is uncalled for. And let me just show you this other clip here. Remember, he went to this purportedly an event for the Black Federation of Black Republicans or something. And when you look at this room, it's actually a very small room. And I'm not sure the representation in the room necessarily meets the title of the group that Trump claims to be speaking in front of. But he says horrific things. This is what he said. I mean, play this clip.
I'm being indicted for you, the black population. I am being indicted for a lot of different groups.
But then you compare that to okay, what's the media coverage of this? Well, this is from the New York Times. I mean, they love Trump at the Times. I don't know what's going on here with the headlines. Don't get me wrong. There's some good stories that they write, but I just don't. These headlines are unfathomable. This is what it said. When Trump dips under 60%, the New York Times headline was, Trump defeats Haley in South Carolina, a crushing blow in her home state. Former President Trump is barreling toward the Republican nomination with a sweep of early states, now including the one Nikki Haley hoped would boost her. What are you talking about? I mean, that's not even what's reflected in the data at all, nor is that what Nikki Haley believed what was going to happen. But then look how New York Times talks about Biden when Biden won with over 95% of the vote. Biden wins his first primary in South Carolina, where his 2020 victory began. 4 years ago, black voters in the state revitalized President Biden's political fortunes. But Saturday's repeat win is an uncertain measure of a wider enthusiasm for his re-election bid. He won by 95%. It is an uncertain measure of a wider enthusiasm for his re-election bid. And actually, the support of black voters by percentage was increased as well. And Donald Trump didn't even get 60% of the vote, and you use words like barreling. By the way, it's no different on Meet the Press. I mean, Kristen Welker, she makes Chuck Todd look like a savant. I mean, what in the world is going on with this Welker and Meet the Press? This is how she describes it. This is like some propagandist. Play this clip.
Trump delivering a crushing blow to Haley in her home state on Saturday, trouncing her by nearly 20 points with nearly 60% of the vote. The former president dominating nearly every key group in the South Carolina Republican primary electorate, according to NBC News exit poll results. Trump now setting his sights squarely on the general election.
Even Fox wasn't saying it like that. That reminds me of we have that photo, Salty, of the North Korean propagandist right there. That's what I'm watching right there. And again, all inconsistent just with the underlying data. Now, let me just show you normalcy for a second, if I can. This is President Biden speaking over the weekend. We got the footage here. You probably haven't seen this anywhere else. You got President Biden speaking with the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox. And Spencer Cox is not MAGA, the governor of Utah. Conservative, not MAGA. I think someone who you could have a reasonable conversation with, Governor Cox. Take a look at what President Biden talks about here, and then I want to show you Republican Governor Cox. Play this clip.
Folks, and I've been around, I know I don't look it, I've been around a long while though. And I mean this sincerely. Politics has gotten too bitter. Democrats and Republicans. Politics has gotten too personally. It just is. It's just not like it was. And by the way, I served in times when we had very, very staunch differences. I mean, there were incredible differences. But we always, not always, but the vast majority of the time, we looked out for a compromise when the end of the day came.
Okay, now let me show you what Governor Cox said. Play the clip.
Mr. President, we disagree on many things. And yet, all of the governors in this room are chief executives. We know just a very little bit of the incredible burden that weighs on your shoulders. We can't imagine what it must be like, the decisions that you have to make, but we feel a small modicum of that pressure. And so tonight, we honor you. My parents taught me that we should pray for the leaders of our country. Mr. President, I want you to know that our family prays for you and your family every night. We pray that you will be successful, because if you're successful, that means that the United States of America is successful. And tonight, we are always Americans first. So thank you for your dedication and your service. May God bless you, and may God bless this great state, this great country, the United States of America, and the great state of Utah.
And Delaware.
Cheers.
And
Delaware.
That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want to see. That's what politics should be about. We can have differences, but we should be able to come together and have normal conversations. I want to show that because that's what politics should be about. And by the way, here, take a look at when Governor Newsom went on Meet the Press. Take a look at how the question is being asked here. Just even how Welker's framing this question. But watch his response. Play this clip.
Do you think it's responsible for Democrats to put him at the top of the ticket given those concerns?
Responsible. I revere his record. I mean, what he's done in 3 years has been a masterclass, close to 15 million jobs. That's 8 times more than the last 3 Republican presidents combined. The economy is booming. Inflation is cooling. It's 0.6% more than it was in the summer of 2020 at just 3.1%. Wait a second. We have American manufacturing coming back home, all because of Biden's wisdom, because of his temperance, his capacity to lead in a bipartisan manner, which is an underrepresented point. And so I have great confidence moving forward. So the answer is absolutely all in terms of the next 4 years.
And folks, let's just I just want to get the data out there. The data, when you look at it over and over again, you see Donald Trump significantly underperforming all of the polling data that's out there. But you also see the polling data reflecting a contrived media narrative of strength, barreling towards, crushing. And then when President Biden actually crushes, it's unclear enthusiasm, 95%? What are you talking about? The people get it, though. That's what's so great about what you're all building here, what we're building together, is we don't need them anymore. We don't need that legacy media. Let's just show the data and share, and we'll do it together. You watching this, show it to your friends, family, show it. That's how we're going to do it. We don't need them anymore. I'm Ben Meiselas. This is the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 3 million together. Have a good one.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.